All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Recovery. Now, I've struggled with congestion all winter long into the spring, and I'm maybe going to have a bigger struggle tonight than I have thus far. I made a big mistake this week. This past Wednesday, I've got a large area to mow here. Mowing for me is 3.5 hours. And so this past Wednesday, I got the mower out. Grass was tall. Things were really dusty. And I realized I didn't have a mask to wear while I was mowing. And being the extremely intelligent person that you all know me to be, I made a decision to mow without a mask. And man, I've been hacking and coughing and congested all week long. And struggling to be able to sleep lying down at night. And so I've got my regulars, my mints, my cough drops. I got my bottle of green tea, and I will try to keep things under control and not lose my voice this evening. But here's what I want to talk about tonight. This is what we're looking at. I spend a lot of time with men who are facing time where nothing in life seems to be settled. And this was the story, especially early in my recovery. I run into guys all the time, and they are in recovery, they're entering recovery, new to recovery, and they don't know where life is headed. The marriage is up in the air. Is the marriage going to last? Is it going to end in divorce? They don't know what's going to happen with the job. Maybe they're in trouble at work because of their struggle with addiction. And they're not sure if they're going to be able to hold on to their job. Or in some cases, like in mine, I was facing jail time. I work with guys all the time that are involved with charges in the court system. Man, that is a scary place to be because you don't have any idea how long that's going to last, how long it's going to be before you find out what's happening with your life. And a lot of us in our recovery face situations like this where life's unstable. It might be at the beginning of our recovery, it might be after we've been in recovery for a while, and something comes at us out of left field and rocks our world a little bit. And so, if that's where you're at, what I want to begin by saying to you this evening is you're not alone. A lot of us face situations like this as we journey through recovery. For many of us, it's in the beginning. For some of us, it's later on. It's not just the rare person that occasionally finds themselves in a situation like this. This is a common part of recovery. And to be honest with you, it's just a common part of life in general, where we don't know what's going on. And it's when we're in that state of limbo, when we're in that state of not knowing what's coming up, well, that might be one of the most dangerous seasons in recovery. Not because something bad has happened, but because nothing's resolved and we don't know what's going to happen. Can you relate to what I'm talking about here? Is this something you've experienced or something that you're maybe experiencing currently? A lot of things are just unanswered. Let me tell you, our brains are designed so that the amygdala, it's a little spot in our brain, plays an important role. The amygdala, the whole purpose for the amygdala is to watch out for danger. And the amygdala it sees uncertainty as danger. We desire concrete answers, but there just aren't a lot of concrete answers in recovery or in life in general. A lot of times things are up in the air, things are in limbo. We don't really know what's coming. And so that's what I want to talk about this evening. What do we do when we find ourselves in a place like that? What do we do when we're uncertain about the future, when we don't know what's coming? Limbo, that idea of being in limbo, where we've got all kinds of unanswered questions. We've got unresolved outcomes. We don't have any idea what's coming in the future. And we feel like everything in life is out of control. Can you relate to what I'm talking about there? Some concrete examples of what I'm talking about could be things like when we have questions about whether or not our marriage is going to survive. We're not sure if our spouse is going to stick around. Maybe we've caused a lot of harm. Maybe we've caused a lot of pain. We've done some really dumb things. And we're not sure if it's going to last. Am I about to lose my job? I've called in for the second or third time this month because I was out last night later than I should have been, partying, doing things that I shouldn't have been. Is my job at risk? Am I about to be unemployed? That brings all kinds of other pressure too, right? Rent, bills. Or if you're one of those rare people where the courts are involved, what are the courts going to decide? Am I going to end up in jail? Is there a potential for me to go to prison? And then we don't have any idea what that timeline is going to look at. For me, in my situation back early in my recovery years ago, I went right at a year from the time I was arrested until the time that I was sentenced. I'm working with a young man right now that, trying to remember here, I think it's been 2 years since his process started. And we still don't know for sure when a decision is going to be made, when he's going to know what's coming for him in the future. That is a scary place. It's a frightening place. And so when we're living in a space like this, what's going on inside of us? What's going on in our heads and in our hearts? Mentally, we can find ourselves spinning out of control. It's really easy when we're caught up in these seasons of anxiety and of the unknown to have a lot of difficulty focusing on what's going on here in the immediate. There are mood swings. We're going along and everything seems good, and all of a sudden, depression or fear, and we become overwhelmed. And most of us that I'm talking to here, most of you, most of us have struggled with compulsive and addictive behaviors. And all of a sudden we get hit with that urge to do something in order to feel better and to experience some relief. So that idea of limbo, it really is more than just uncertainty. It's sustained uncertainty with no visible end to the timeline. We just don't have any idea how long it's going to last and what's going to take place. So, why do experiences like this trigger our addictions and trigger our behaviors? A core message that I'm always putting out here, you've heard me say this dozens of times if you've listened to me at all. It's the idea that behind every behavior is a feeling, And behind every feeling is a need. Now, how do we break that idea down? Well, that behavior, it's the compulsive behavior, it's the addiction, the acting out, whether that's alcohol or drugs or gambling or overeating or sexual behavior. We're focused on the behavior because that's what causes the majority of the pain up front. But if we focus on the behavior, we never get to the root of the problem. Behind that behavior is a feeling. What kind of feelings are present there? It can be all kinds of feelings. It can be that we're experiencing fear, that we're experiencing anxiety, maybe shame. Have you ever struggled with shame? That can be overwhelming, it pushes us into isolation. Maybe feelings of helplessness or feelings of guilt because of things that we've done or things that we haven't done. And so there are feelings, and we're experiencing these feelings. We don't have any idea what to do with them. And these feelings turn into behaviors meant to relieve those feelings. But behind those feelings are needs. Many times those needs are traced all the way back to our childhood. Now, that doesn't mean that if we struggle with drugs or alcohol or sexual behavior today, that we struggled with that specific thing all the way back to our childhood. But it can be that we grew up in a home where we experienced a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear. We didn't feel attunement and connection to our parents. Maybe we were criticized a lot. We were told we were failures. And needs were created inside of us in our childhood. What do those needs look like? Well, some basic needs that all of us deal with are needs like safety. All of us have a built-in need and desire to feel safe. When we don't feel safe, that need generates feelings. Then we don't know what to do with those feelings. And those feelings generate behavior, our addictions and our compulsions. It might be a need for certainty. That need for certainty really is connected to safety because, again, our amygdala, it interprets uncertainty as a lack of safety. It might be that we feel like we have a need to control things. We might have a need for relief. And again, this all connects to our addiction and to our compulsive behaviors because that addiction stems from an attempt to regulate those feelings and emotions that we don't have any idea what to do with. Let me give you some examples here and break this down a little bit. Let's say a man comes home after a long day at work. He feels overwhelmed, he feels criticized, and he feels inadequate after a bad interaction with his boss. But instead of naming those feelings, maybe he was never taught as a child or in his life, never learned what to do with those feelings, how to process those feelings in a healthy way. And so instead of naming those feelings, pressing in and processing those feelings, his internal experience sounds more like, well, I just need to relax. I deserve something to take the edge off. So he turns, let's say, to pornography. And in the moment, you know what? That can work. All of a sudden, his stress level drops. His mind shifts away from the problem and the issues that he had at work, and he feels a sense of control and relief. But here's what's actually happening underneath that process. With his feelings aren't being dealt with. They're not being processed. His feelings are actually being ramped up. He begins to feel overwhelmed. And his behavior leads him into additional feelings, maybe of shame and inadequacy. With that need, the need that's there in the background in a situation like this would probably look like needs for comfort, a need for reassurance, a need for connection. That need for connection is at the core behind a lot of things that we experience. You know, it's like that saying that is floating around here for years now. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is healthy community or connection. And so, or a need for rest. But all this leads to behavior. In this case, the example we gave was pornography. And that behavior is an attempt to escape the feelings rather than process them. And it's an attempt to meet the need that's at the core of the issue. The problem isn't that this gentleman had a need. The problem is how he tried to meet it. So maybe this could look like what's being experienced is an attempt to escape pressure. For example, somebody has a big deadline coming up at work, and what they feel, remember, behind every behavior is a feeling, behind every feeling is a need. Big deadline coming up at work, and so what we feel is pressure to perform. Maybe we feel fear of failure. We're questioning whether we're able to do this or not, whether we're able to meet the expectations that are present. Maybe we feel a sense that I'm just not going to be able to pull this off. I'm not going to be able to get this done. So instead of facing the task, we tell ourselves, well, I'll start in a little bit. I just need a break first. So we go to our phone and we start to scroll. We head to YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. And we start to scroll. Have you ever done that? We intend to go to Facebook for just 2 or 3 minutes, just look at a couple of things. And all of a sudden, we've been at it for a half hour or more, maybe an hour. Maybe along with that scrolling, we turn to snacks. We just start to munch. We grab that family-sized bag of potato chips. You know what I'm talking about. The big bag. And before we know it, we ate the whole thing. And hours go by. And all of a sudden, we really are in a hole. We really are in a bad spot. Now, in the moment, that behavior worked. The behavior did not help us to process the feeling. The behavior did not meet the need. But in the moment, it worked. We got caught up in that loop on YouTube or on Facebook or on TikTok. And all of a sudden, it felt like the pressure dropped. The anxiety fades temporarily, and we experience in the short term a sense of relief. And then all of a sudden we recognize how long it's been, and the pressure is even greater than when we began. So what's happening underneath in this situation? The feelings were anxiety, fear, pressure, maybe some self-doubt. What kind of needs may have been behind that? Behind every behavior is a feeling. Behind every feeling is a need. I know I'm repeating that a lot, but you need to remember that. There's truth in that process. The need here may have been a need for support. We may have needed to ask for help. It may have been a need for clarity. We didn't have a full understanding of what was expected. It may have been a need for confidence or for encouragement or for manageable steps. The behavior that we used to try to escape from those feelings and to run from the needs was avoidance and distraction on our phone and on our device. I'll give you one more one more picture of an example here. Maybe we're struggling with an attempt to create control. Here's what that would look like. We're headed into a social event. Maybe it's a work gathering, or maybe it's a party of some sort. Inside, what we're feeling is anxiety. We're feeling self-conscious. We're afraid of saying the wrong thing and looking foolish in front of people. We feel like we just don't measure up to the rest of the people that are in the room. We're not dressed as nice. We're not as smart. We don't fit in as well. We don't know what to say. Those are the feelings that are taking place inside of us. Our internal thoughts that are tied to those feelings might be things like, I just need to loosen up. And then the thought hits, well, I'm always a little better after a couple drinks. You know what? A couple drinks, that'll help me be more like myself. That'll help me to blend in. So we have a drink or two before we show up at the event. We have another one right after we get there. And then we continue to drink while the event's going on. And you know what? In the moment, this behavior works. In the moment, my anxiety drops. In the moment, I feel more confident. In the moment, conversations become easier. In the moment, I feel more in control of how I'm being perceived by the people that are around me. Have you ever experienced that or something like that? Now, all too often, though, later on, we find out that we made a fool of ourselves, that we didn't have it under control, that we didn't look good. So the key that I'm getting at here is that addiction, compulsive behavior, doesn't just want relief. That's not what it's about. That addiction and that compulsive behavior makes a promise to us that it can't fulfill on. That addiction and that compulsive behavior promises control in a situation where you feel like you have no control. And in the end, the addiction and behavior doesn't provide control either. We find out that it's told us a lie. It's fed us a lie. So, what's the real danger here? most people think that relapse is about temptation. But most of the time, it's not about temptation. It's about our perception of pressure that we're experiencing. Now, I want you to think about how that plays out and how that looks. We're experiencing uncertainty. Back to where we started. We don't know if the wife's going to stay with us or if she's going to leave. We don't know if we're going to be able to keep the job. We just don't know. There's many things that are unknown in life. That uncertainty generates anxiety. That anxiety and fear increases the pressure that we're experiencing. And that pressure creates a sense of urgency. Can you identify with what I'm talking about here? Have you experienced this before? Then, at some point, our brain, usually it starts as a whisper. Hey, I just need a little bit of relief here. And then it gets a little louder. You know, I really wish this could calm down and stop. And before long, it's beginning to shout at us. I need this to stop. I need it to stop. And it's during this process that we are at high risk. We're at high risk. Now, I want you to think about something. Nobody relapses because we want to ruin our lives. I have yet to meet somebody that said in the middle of the day, I think I want to go out tonight and just ruin my life. That's not at the core of relapse. We relapse many times because we want relief from the pressure of not knowing what's going on. We're searching for certainty and we're searching for control. Now let's take a minute here and talk about some of the things that don't work when we experience this. And I want to encourage you to put some thought in to what the patterns are that take place in your life, in your acting out, in your relapse. And I will just about guarantee you there are patterns. There are always patterns. A lot of times I ask people, I say, what happened leading up to your relapse? Well, nothing. Life was going great. Everything was fine. And all of a sudden, I was just drunk. All of a sudden, I just acted out. Baloney. There are always patterns. And we need to look and identify those common patterns. Those things need to become warning signs for us. Some of those patterns may be that we convince ourselves that if we try hard enough, we can figure everything out. I'm going to tell you something. I'm old. I may be the oldest person here tonight. There may not be anybody else watch this that's older than me. But there are a lot of things in life that we're never going to figure out and we're never going to find answers to. The pattern may be we convince ourselves that we can figure it out. It may be that we obsess over outcomes in the future. A pattern may be that we sit and we replay conversations. That can be where we replay that situation at work where we felt like we were disrespected or we were talked down to. It can be, a pattern back in the days when I was married. I got to tell you, I was not a good husband. I really wasn't. Back in the days when I was married, there are times right now when I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. But I've been divorced for, gee whiz, I don't know, 25 years. I know more than 20 years. And there are days when I can remember almost word for word arguments that I had with my ex-wife. And we've been divorced that long. Do you know why I remember them? Because I have practiced sitting and replaying those conversations and allowing those things to continue to keep me aggravated, to continue to keep me upset. Maybe a pattern is that we're always running around trying to control other people. I can't even control myself sometimes. Or a pattern may be we get triggered, and instead of pressing into healthy community or asking for help, sharing our struggle, we move towards isolation. It may be that a common pattern is I don't ask for help and I try to white knuckle my way through the situation. Now, I want you to listen to what I say here. All right? All of these things that I've been talking about are attempts to try to control things. But trying to control what hasn't been decided yet will always wear you out. And most of the time, it'll push you right back into old behaviors that have failed repeatedly. Hear what I'm saying? Trying to control things wears us out and pushes us back into old behaviors. So, what does healthy self-care look like when we're in these situations where we're not sure what's going on in life? This is what we need to focus on. Healthy self-care in those times when things are undecided. What are a few things that we can look at? I'm gonna go over a few here. All right. Feel free to pull out a pencil and paper and make some notes. You need to be ready to try new things, because odds are for many of us, what we've done in the past hasn't worked. First of all, step one, the first thing that we can consider doing for healthy self-care is to determine that we're going to narrow our focus and to realize that you're not responsible for solving all your problems in life today. You're not going to be able to do it. It's not possible. So we determine we're not responsible for solving life today. All we're responsible for today is living life today, in this moment. You remember the saying, one day at a time? There are times when I have to say 1 hour at a time or 1 minute at a time. Have you ever been there? You need to ask yourself, when you begin to feel overwhelmed, like there's so much coming down on you, what has to be accomplished today? Make a list. And then go back and look at that list again, because I'll guarantee you, probably at least half of what you've just placed on that list doesn't have to take place today. What has to take place today? And focus on that. Pick one thing, maybe two things, and go to work on that. Don't try to solve all of life's problems. Narrow your focus. What do I need to accomplish today to be able to finish the day saying, I've done well? It's a lot less than you think it is. Number 2, the next right step. You heard that before? Just do the next right thing. There's a lot of truth in that statement. The idea there is we don't have to know the whole plan. We just need to focus on the next decision. The next decision. Now, what does that look like? I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling like a failure. I don't know if my marriage is going to make it. I don't know if my job is going to last. I can't right now in the present guarantee that my marriage is going to make it and that my job is going to last, that I'm not going to jail. I can't guarantee all those things right now. So what's that next decision? What's that next right step? Maybe it means that I pick up my phone and I make a phone call. Have you heard about that struggle with the 500-pound telephone? I can pick up my phone and scroll all day long. I can pick up my phone and go to TikTok or Facebook, but it's physically impossible for me to pick up my phone and call my sponsor or call my friend. Call somebody that can talk to me while I work through this moment. Make a call. Maybe an example of that next right step means all I'm focused on today is getting my butt out of bed and making it to work. I don't know that I'm going to have a job tomorrow, but that next right step is that I get up and I make it to work on time today. I focus on what I can do right now. Maybe that next right step is I go to a meeting. I was in a meeting last night. We had storms here last night. Normally, there's about 15 guys in this Monday night meeting. Last night, there were 8. But we had some bad storms rolling through. Now, let me just throw this out there. I'm not one of those sissies that didn't make it because storms were rolling through. I'm joking. There were guys that weren't there last night because they were sick. There were areas around here that were getting hail. I think a tornado touched down here in the area. I'm not knocking anybody for not showing up last night. but I was at that meeting. It can be going to a meeting. It doesn't matter what I'm experiencing when I walk into that meeting. This particular meeting, here's what I can tell you. When I go into this meeting, no matter what is taking place, no matter who shows up, 2 or 3 guys there, bare minimum, are going to tell me how glad they are to see me. They're going to hug me, even if I'm not a hugger. But you know what? Over time, I start to look forward to it. And we sit there and we talk. We share with one another. We listen with one another. We don't fix each other's problems. We don't solve all the cares of the world. We listen. We listen. We care about each other. We go to a meeting. Nowadays, you don't even have to get in the car. There are all kinds of meetings that are online. If I wasn't here doing this on Tuesday nights, there's a meeting I could be in on Tuesday nights. I used to be in an online meeting on Tuesday nights. Nowadays, I choose to spend Tuesday nights here with you. It means that I can decide that next right thing can be that I make a decision. I'm going to be honest with at least one person. The next person that asks me, hey, Ron, how's it going? I'm not going to look at them and smile and say, everything's fine. I'm not going to do that. Somebody told me recently, they gave me a new definition of fine. Maybe you've heard this before. I like this. You need to think about this. I'm saying this. I'm quoting this definition of fine to everybody that tells me that nowadays. Oh, you're fine. That means freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and totally emotional. I know what you're feeling. I make a decision. I'm going to be honest. Now, I may not go into a tremendous amount of detail, but somebody asks and I say, you know, man, I'm just struggling right now. I'm having a hard day. I'm having a hard week. Things have been especially hard this last 15 minutes. Maybe it stops there, but maybe my being honest opens a door where they become honest. And we begin to talk to one another, and we end up encouraging one another and helping one another through the evening, helping each other through our struggle. But we focus on taking that next right step. Now, a third thing that we can do. I'm a big believer in daily check-ins. Daily check-ins. I give this outline for a check-in all the time. And I'm going to tell you tonight what I always tell you. I have a worksheet that goes with this check-in. And if you're interested in that worksheet, this check-in is important. It's 4 simple questions. Doesn't take me but a few minutes, unless I want it to take longer. It doesn't take me but a few minutes to do this check-in with myself every day. 4 simple questions. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? And I don't say fine and I don't say good, because those are not feelings. Those are words we use to hide from our feelings. I say things like, I'm feeling some shame. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling a little guilt. I'm feeling disconnected. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling maybe a little bit glad or a little bit joy. but I name those feelings. I was reading just recently a new study that says that when we begin to struggle emotionally, if we can pause, when we begin to struggle emotionally, our brain begins to shut down. Our frontal lobes begin to drift offline. Our reasoning and our thought begins to shift offline. But if we can stop, even if we're being kicked into that fight, flight, or freeze mode because of all the things that are going on in life, if we can stop and identify and verbalize just a couple feelings, man, I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling overwhelmed. If we can speak those things out of our mouth, that triggers a reaction in our brain. And there's research here. I can send you the report. If we can identify as little as just 2 feelings and honestly speak those feelings out, it triggers the frontal lobe in my brain to begin to come back online, so I can begin to process what's going on in a healthy way. So in our check-in, question 1, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? That looks like, what have I been thinking about today? Am I focused on and consumed in something that I have to get done for work? Am I consumed by something that's going on at home? What are my thoughts focused on today? What am I doing? There's a little bit broader question than what you might think in the beginning. What am I doing? That's going to cover things like, where have I been today? Who have I been around today? Have you ever noticed that there are certain people that when you're around them, they just seem to lift your spirits? Now, there are also certain people that when you're around them, you get a little more on edge. You get a little more aggressive. We write that down. We take note of that. This goes back to what I talked about earlier about patterns. What have I been doing today? And what's my day been like? If it's been a good day and I've been in a good mood, I need to make note. These are the people I've been around. This is what I've been doing. If I haven't been in a good state of mind, I need to make note of that too. This is where I've been. This is who I've been around. And then question number 4, and I've talked about this one a lot. What am I thinking about doing? There was a study several years ago. I'm always reading studies and talking about them. There was a study several years ago about alcoholics. And this study found that if you are a recovering alcoholic and you're going to relapse, there is a specific day of the week and a specific time of that day where you are most likely to relapse. Do you know what that is? It's Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. And this study actually came up with a reason that they believe as to why most people that are recovering alcoholics relapse at that time on that day. And what they found, the pattern, what's in common with many people, most of us work Monday through Friday. We're off Sunday, and on Sunday afternoon, headed into Sunday evening, we realize I've got to go back to work tomorrow. And a lot of us maybe don't like our jobs, or we don't like our boss, or we don't like the people we work with, or there's a project coming up that we don't want to do. And we start to focus on these things. Or if we're unemployed, it still triggers us, because on Sunday afternoon, we start thinking, I don't have a job to go to tomorrow. And so the most likely day for a recovering alcoholic to relapse is Sunday in the afternoon and early evening. And they found that to be true with other people too. I've got a friend who struggles with sex addiction that tells me, he swears, Sunday afternoon and evening is the most likely day for him to struggle, if he's going to struggle. For me and my addiction, it was Wednesdays. And I'm not going to go into the story of why it was Wednesdays, but there was a reason. And when I was able to recognize that Wednesday evening was when I struggled, I was able to begin to dig into that and identify why I struggled on Wednesday evenings. And that played a major role in me breaking that pattern and beginning a long-term streak of sobriety. Now, I have a check-in sheet that goes with this check-in, walks you through it. And if you're interested in that, you shoot me a message here on Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to my website and email me and just ask, can I get that worksheet on check-ins? Leave an email address and I'll get it to you. I'll see to it you get it. And if you have any questions about it, once you get it, ask. I'll be happy to talk with you. When we're able to do a check-in, a simple check-in, something like these 4 questions, and I'll be honest with you, I've used 4 questions for years. I've been in recovery a long time, and I've always had 4 questions in my check-in. I actually modified my 4 questions back in about 2019 when I got connected to a new group. There's a group called Samson Society that is for guys that are struggling with pornography and unhealthy sexual behavior. And they were using a 4-question check-in. It was very similar to the one I was using, but they were using these 4 specific questions. And I thought their 4 questions were a little bit better than mine. And so I stole their questions, and I've been using them. So far, we said we narrow our focus to today. We decide to take that next right step, and then we do our daily check-in. Begin to identify patterns so that we can adjust our plan. And then the 4th thing, stay connected. We cannot do this alone. If you think you can do recovery alone, you're fooling yourself, or you're trying to. We have to stay connected. Again, we pick up a phone and we call somebody. We talk it out. We be honest about what we're afraid of. If you've got an option of staying home by yourself or getting together with some people that are not going to be doing the things you're trying to avoid doing, then you need to get out and connect with people. Isolation makes uncertainty louder. If you're feeling uncertain, if you're feeling fearful of the future, you isolate. And that fear is going to begin to shout and scream in your head in that isolation. Isolation makes uncertainty louder. I got 2 more things here really quick. I've got to start wrapping things up. We have to accept what we can't control. Now, that's big. That's big because you know what? You can't control everything. You can't do it. I can't do it. Your sponsor can't do it. The person that you visualize as having the perfect life can't do it. We can't control everything. This is big. There are just a few things here I'll mention that you absolutely cannot control. You can't control outcomes. There are no guaranteed outcomes. You can't control timelines. Just as sure as you say, I have to have this by tomorrow morning, or I have to know this by the end of the day, you're not going to get it, and you're not going to have the answer when you want it. And a third thing you can't control is other people's responses. In fact, you can't control anything about anybody else. We got enough of a problem trying to control ourselves. Accept what you don't control, but recognize what you do control. You control your actions. You control whether you make that phone call. You control whether you choose to isolate or whether you choose to reach out and connect. You control your actions. You control your honesty. When somebody asks you a question, are you going to lie or are you going to tell the truth? You control that response. And you control your consistency. One of the jokes about my consistency in my Monday night group, say, hey, I'm Ron, I'm a recovering addict. And if I live to be 100, one of you young punks will be pushing me in here in a wheelchair, because this is what I do on Monday nights. Consistency. You control your consistency. The last thing here, tying things together and closing things out. I want you to think about what I'm saying. I don't control the outcome. I do control my next decision. You need to repeat that with me. I don't control the outcome. I do control my next decision. Those are two things that you can repeat. I see that wheelchair emblem there, Blast. Trying to be funny, huh? If you were up here, dude, I'd make you push me in a wheelchair. When you're struggling with anxiety, when your anxiety spikes, then man, you need to repeat those two statements. I don't control the outcome. I do control my next decision. Here's where hope comes in. What we're learning, what we're teaching ourselves, what we're learning is the importance of patience. I can't demand answers and expect them to come right now. We're learning emotional regulation. Behind every behavior is a feeling. Behind every feeling is a need. We're learning emotional regulation. We're learning how to control, how to process our feelings. We're not allowing ourselves to be controlled by them. We're not trying to run from them and to escape from them. We're pressing into them. We're processing them in a healthy way. We're learning humility, and we're learning dependence on others. You know what? I can't do this by myself. You can't do this by yourself. I know you're here, Blast. You remember when we used to argue? Man, you got to have community. And you'd push back. I don't like people. I only like my dog. We need people, brother. We all need people. I need you and you need me. We have to walk together if we hope to succeed. And we learn to practice discipline, daily disciplines, pressing in. This process is about learning how to live without having to control, without having to have control while we move forward. Yes, we can move forward. We can make progress without knowing where that next step's going to land, without knowing what's coming next, without control. Where in your life right now feels unresolved? What are those unanswered questions that are present for you? Do they involve relationships? Do they involve work? Do they involve run-ins with the law? Do they involve finances, housing situations? Where in your life right now feels unresolved and out of control? You don't have to have all the answers to take the next right step. What's that next right step? All right, I'm wrapping things up here, bringing things to a close. If you don't follow me here on Facebook or on YouTube, this will be posted on YouTube also. I'd invite you to follow me. I post here regularly, almost daily. Most of my things are short, 2 minutes. Tuesday nights, I do Let's Talk Recovery live here on Facebook. Then it gets moved and posted to YouTube. Follow me here. Follow me on YouTube, on my other social media. If you want a copy of that daily check-in plan, send me a message here or email me at rwcoaching2@gmail.com. And when you get a chance, take a look at the website, rw-coaching.com. I'll let you know. I have important information coming up about some new groups that are going to begin here soon at the end of May. All right, guys, I'll see you next week here again for Let's Talk Recovery. Have a good evening.